Welcome to the Solution Seekers podcast, where we uncover the future of bringing people together through the eyes of industry leaders. We love these conversations and hope you will too. Let's get started.
Hello, and welcome to the Solution Seekers podcast. I'm your host, Paige Buck. Recent guests have included Pam Perez of the Chase Center, John Silva of Culinary Eye, and Elaine Honig of Studio 440. Today, I am delighted to be joined by Arleen Van Londen, founder of Diamond Street Live. She is an experiential event producer, moment curator, and B2C expert, and she is born to network. Live experiences are in Arleen's DNA, and she is the budget keeper of multi-million-dollar projects. Before I introduce Arleen or get going with her, today's episode is brought to you by Kennedy Events. Kennedy Events creates stress-free conferences and events, providing expert management and design for all your corporate event needs, from in-person to hybrid and virtual. You can learn more about us at kennedyevents.com. Hello, Arleen, and thanks for sitting through that litany.
Hello.
I was having such a good time catching up with you after we met at EMS. You really are born to network. You are probably the single most memorable person I met there, and I feel like I met hundreds and hundreds of people.
Well, thank you. I try.
Yeah, you were, and I felt like every time I turned a corner, there you were in conversation with somebody who looked like they were an old friend to you. You seem like you know and get to work with a lot of great people in our industry.
Yes, I'm very thankful that I have been around for a while and that I'll stick around for a while and that I get to work with so many inspiring and creative people.
Well, take me back to the beginning. How did you get started? How did you find your way into this new world of experiential?
Oh, well, I don't think I've ever done anything else. I started in hospitality, which is obviously also a service-minded industry where I was very young. I was like 15, 16 and started working in bars and hotels and catering. And at one point I was working at this bar, and we had this little square in front of it, and we were doing like events annually there. And then all of a sudden I think I was like 17, 18, and I was like, oh my God, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. So I went back to school and I got an internship at the biggest event company, and I'm from Holland, so it's one of the biggest event companies at that time. And I think I was about 19 or 20 when I started there. And when we did our first festival, I was hooked.
What sort of role did you get to play in that first festival?
So I was doing artist service management. I was doing pre-production, and it was an internship, so it was like working with the main producer. And then on the day itself, it was artist service management. So I was like for the doing the green rooms and then getting them on to stage on time and everything. And I remember that there was this DJ. His name was Eric E. And during the day we had bands, and then in the night we had DJs. And he got on stage and people went crazy, and I was on stage with him because I needed to guide him all the way to the DJ booth. And I just turned around and I saw the effect that in this case music, and therefore a festival, had on people. And I was like, that was it. I got goosebumps, and I was like, oh, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life.
Oh my gosh, how many people get to say they get goosebumps in their job?
Oh, I still have them every single event that I do, because I'm I think I'm very lucky and fortunate to know that young what I really wanted to do in life. And I know that we've talked about this before, but I really felt the joy that we were bringing to people in that moment. And I that's valuable to me. And I was so young, and I never ever even considered doing anything else.
Mm, yeah, that's tremendous. And have you always then done B2C and consumer focused events, or do you sometimes get dragged or drawn to B2B?
Well, with the world changing the last, I would say, decade, by being experiential, calling it experiential marketing and making events more into experiences. I do touch B2B sometimes. Like, for example, we designed a booth during CES for a car, the first road-ready solar car. So we had to make a fully sustainable booth. So yeah, that's B2B, but it's still experiential marketing. So it's still a brand activation. So I do touch it from time to time, but it's mostly business to consumer what I do.
But you can still, I assume, because I know I have get goosebumps with a B2B event when you see how it all comes together and the experience people are having with it.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And especially when it's very inspiring, when there's like very inspiring speakers or very unexpected. I like unexpected smaller experiences, like the things that you remember. Like this is not a B2B event, but I remember going to Museum of Ice Cream the first year when it was just out. It was very new. And they had this experience where you got an ice cream out, like you didn't see the person and it came out of the wall. And they gave you this little pill. And because of the pill and because of the ice cream, it like had all these different flavors in your mouth and it was almost like blind because you didn't really interact with anyone. I think
Mhm.
those small surprises and those level of detail is what I really, really like. If it's B2B or B2C, that doesn't really matter. But having people interact in a way with the brand that is unusual and really touches them, that's what that's like my high in life.
I love that. I love that. Well, yes, and you had to carefully qualify that Museum of Ice Cream comment because then Instagram took over and it just became a like photograph everything thing instead of a private moment.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been to like the follow-ups of that specific activation, but the first year they did a really, really good job in New York. That
Yeah.
really awesome. Yeah.
It just sounds incredible. And I remember when we were at EMS together, one of the themes that they were drawing out was choice when it comes to those small moments. How you can create in a very large event, you can create choice for the individual in what sort of small experiences they're having, and that choice makes up a huge part of how somebody then engages with the thing, as opposed to it being thrust upon them or like everybody's going to love this instead
Yeah.
of you might like this and some other people might like this.
Yeah, and it's also a trend in the last like 5 to 10 years where I mean, let's not count COVID into it, obviously. Well, maybe COVID actually made it bigger because what you see at festivals now is that instead of just being, for example, beer sponsor, uh, the brands are actually want to engage with their audience. So, like,
Mhm.
let's say 20 years ago, when I was doing the larger festivals, it was all about, how much beer they would sell at a festival. And now it's all about the experience of the brand. And that's a choice because you can pick what brand speaks to you most at places like trade shows or festivals or and I think that the experience, and I've been saying this for so long, people don't want big, bigger, big anymore. They want small, they want to be like touched and like like interact with people on a smaller scale.
Mhm.
And I think that festivals played into that really well by having all these like brands come in and do their actual brand activations instead of just selling beer or whatever it is that their product is.
Yeah. Do you have some examples of activations that really speak to that where somebody is having a more individualized experience than just like, oh yeah, I grabbed my beer, I saw your brand, I'm on my way.
So yeah, like one of the things that you're seeing the last few years is a lot of customization. So, instead of being like a fan of a big thing, you make your own thing of it. So we had an activation where we would have a merch booth, but it was more than just getting a t-shirt. It was like all branded to your whatever you wanted. And obviously fashion is one way to express yourself, especially at festivals. And in this specific case, it was very, very well done. The customization was just brilliant. So that is an example, but we also put like Pac-Man machines in the middle of an activation, or gosh, there's so much. Just the smaller details of actually connecting with a brand and a community around it. Um, like for example, we just did an event in Paris during the Olympics where we had the locals providing the catering. So there's this personal touch to a big brand.
Yes, I think that right there has become really important to some of our clients, making a local social component that resonates both for the people who are organizing it and the attendee.
Yeah.
This is really exciting. You just got back from the Olympics. I feel like you must have just hardly caught up on sleep. Um, and you were sharing with me before we started recording that it can be challenging planning a major event alongside a mega event. I don't even know how you would, the Olympics is unparalleled in the scope that of how much it would overtake a city. What were some of the challenges you encountered putting that together?
So our activation was not in they call it the Olympic ring. So they're in basically the city center. So we were outside of it, but because of the quality and we had a lot of like A-list celebrities and the VIPs attending our event. And one of the biggest challenges was because they were not just in Paris for us, they were staying within the Olympic ring. And because the event was during the opening of the Olympics, we weren't able to get them to our venue
Oh gosh.
because they closed off all the streets. So that was I unfortunately can't say any names, but we had some high-end people. We had to had them walk to another part of town to be able to get brought to our activation. So that was challenging. We also didn't we also had to switch venues 10 days before the event, and I don't know how we even found this venue being available, but it was. And because another activation fell through for them. But we also had to revise the whole creative and um execution, and if you're doing it in one venue or another venue, you need other aspects of the event. And I don't know how we did it, but we did it. And I think obviously the most challenging part is finding partners that bring high quality for a good price.
Mm-hmm. Do
That
you,
that was
did,
challenging.
did you or the partners you were collaborating with have deep relationships in Paris that could help you
Yes.
research those
Yes,
things?
we hired a few locals that were very embedded into one production world, event production world, two in specific culture speaking to this brand. So yeah,
Nice.
yeah. And we worked partly with Europeans, partly with Americans. That brought challenges of its own, but
Well,
uh
imagine telling A-listers, I'm terribly sorry, but I'm going to be sending you walking directions to your smartphone, and then somebody will meet you instead of sending a town car. Uh, that in
yeah.
itself is tricky.
Yeah, that was challenging, yeah, but we did it. And that's the nature of our business, right? You have to be flexible.
Yes. And you were touching on what it's like to draw in and have to work in high pressure environments with teams of people, other agencies, other collaborators, boots on the ground you've hired, European and American experts in the world that you're trying to execute in. How do you, how would you advise somebody who hasn't been in this business long about what it takes to play well with others?
Oh, I think kindness is very important. I think always understanding that the other person has the same end goal in mind, which is successful event, is important. And I think for me, what has always helped really well is just be very transparent and open. And I think a big thing for me, and this is also how I thrive in projects, is humor. Like you can, like, if you hear 10 days before an event, you have to switch venues. I mean, you can cry, but you can also laugh and just go for it. And, at least you try, and you do the best that you can. And I think if you bring that energy, I mean, in Paris at one point, people were, I'm not saying that they were losing hope, but it was challenging. They had long working days. And I think if you bring, what I do is like, the level of detail you bring to your execution of your event, also bring that level of detail to your team,
Mm.
especially if they're working so hard. So I'm an executive producer, don't have too much of an ego to get coffees for your team. Like in this case, it was in Paris, like bring cookies, bring coffees, bring croissants, like put on like a theme song in the morning, like high five someone or tell them that they're doing a good job, or it's really not that hard. And I think that valuing your people as much as you value your product, or the event that you need to produce, is just as important.
Yes, I love that. I would love working with you because I think you and our team shares a lot of the same core values. Like one of our core values, and it's the one I always feel almost like slightly sheepish saying, is that we're delightful. Like this is an incredibly stressful industry. It's stressful getting these projects done. And who wants to get on a weekly call with somebody or go through $1 million budget when you're really stressed about whether you're going to be able to meet budget? And think, oh God, I have to get on with these people. They stress me out too. Like, you want it
Yeah,
to
but
be
I feel
the person who brings you coffee and cookies and tells you you're doing an awesome job.
also, yeah, but if a client is like that, and you even bad mood rubs off on you, a good mood rubs off on them. So
Hmm.
I feel like if someone approaches me with a bad mood, or it can be different reasons. Maybe they just had a fight with their kid in the morning, or it's like
Yeah.
it can be a million reasons why someone is having a rough day. But I feel that if that bad mood rubs off on you, your good mood will also rub off on them, and then hopefully you meet somewhere in the middle
So
where
true.
you like work on the same thing. But also,
Yep.
like, and I know we talked about this before, but being kind doesn't always mean that you have to be nice. Like, it happens to me too, that even though I'm a cheerful person and I like to laugh, and sometimes a client is not nice to me as well. But I don't take that. That is where I draw a line, and I will never like be mean or call someone names, or that's not my nature. But I will say something about it, but I won't say it in front of everyone. So I will just take someone aside and just say like, hey, I know you're the client, and I know you want certain things from me, but this is not how I want to be approached. Um, and I think what comes with that for me is, instead of saying the entire time what you don't want, tell people what you do want.
Yes.
That's a
Oh,
more positive approach to things. So if a client has a rough day or is like mean to me or whatever, I will just say like, I would like you to approach me like this. If you feel stressed or anything about it, I would like you to do this. And I think that is something I really had to learn. And it brought me much further and way more than pushing back or going into that energy of that other person.
yes. I think that's really wise. Something my team, I think, has struggled with, and I've heard this from lots of peers in the industry, other people running businesses my size, I that mm, in hospitality, especially, I would say, from most commonly from venues, the hospitality is lacking in hospitality, especially on the back end. And getting the communication and the responses that we need is super challenging.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've spoken to leading, direct sales directors at five-star hotels, and they're like, yes, that is how it is now. Like,
Oh, I
and
think the entire world has a really, really hard time getting the right people in.
yeah, understandably, these jobs don't pay very well. That we could be doing, I think if we all learned during COVID, if what you're doing isn't bringing you joy and you have choice, then you're going to make a different choice. And some of these jobs were not joyful, and some of them weren't paying, at least, here, especially in the United States. But I think in Western Europe as well, like these jobs weren't paying well. They were incredibly demanding for what they for the compensation. It was not a fair, not a fair measure. So yeah, they haven't recovered full resources, and we're not getting the communication we need. And it starts off challenging and stays challenging.
Yeah.
And we try to bring as much kindness as we can to it, and it remains tricky, but that constantly asking for what you would like to see is the best we've been able to do.
Yeah. 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 I approach it a little differently. I just go in and then meet them in person,
Mm-hmm.
even if I have to like travel for it. And I just really sit down with someone and I said, and that's again, like you can be kind, but not nice. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's also typically New York, maybe, but uh, I- and I still do this to this day, even though I have the best coworkers and staff and people around me that are incredibly good and are like-minded than I am. I still to this day brief my guest facing staff myself.
Mm-hmm.
The the security, because it starts at the door, right? It's people can see, you can have the most beautiful entrance in the entire world. If your security guard is not nice to people, that is your business card. And that is the first person they interact with. That's
Yeah.
the first person they talk to. If that person is not nice, you're not on my team, because I need that person to represent my company. So I always brief them myself, and I always pick the nicest person, even though it might not be the biggest person at the door. I just prefer that because they're your business card.
Boy, those
And
first impressions
yeah,
really
it's the
stick.
same for people in catering. I sit down with them and I take the time to brief them. And I sit down and I say, hey, this is what and then people enjoy what they do, even if they don't enjoy their work, but they might enjoy working for you or with you. I also feel like they're not working for me, they're working with me. And
Always.
and that is something that yeah, that I try. And does it always work? Obviously not everyone wants to listen to me. But I try the best, because that also makes my life more joyful.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's so funny how we're sitting here talking about massive events with massive impact, and then our conversation just comes back to little things like kindness, not always niceness, joy, humility. You don't have to be the boss. You don't have to have them working for you. Um,
No, because in the end of the day, we're all human beings, and I feel that whatever you give comes back to you. I'm a firm believer of that. And am I always this perfect? Like I'm preaching about myself? Of course not. Like I have my moments and I slip sometimes, and I'm still from a neighborhood that wasn't as chic as you might imagine. So there might be some curse words here here and there. But I never, what I really learned is not to make it personal. So make it
mhm.
about the situation, but don't necessarily make it about the person. So when you make a mistake, I can say to you like, "Oh, you stupid," Or I can say like, hey, this situation is like this, and this is why I don't like it, and I want you to fix it, and I want you to do
Mhm.
this, instead of it's not up to me in life to make another person feel bad, or it's not up to me in life to break them down. Like I don't want to be that person. It's like if we're
Yeah.
talking about choice, I choose
Yes.
not to be that person. And but are there people around me that don't understand me and that think that I'm too direct? Yes, yes, probably, because I'm in the end still Dutch, and
Dutch by way of New York now, so it just adds to it.
yeah. So it adds up. It adds up to the. I have a very funny story, a quick story about how New Yorkers are kind but not nice. There's this story about a woman in line for a coffee in the morning, and there's a gentleman behind her, and she forgot her wallet, but she already ordered the coffee, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, I forgot my wallet!" Oh, blah blah blah. And then the gentleman behind her says, "Don't worry, I'll pay for your coffee." Like, and then she's like, "Oh my God, thank you. Can I Venmo you when I'm home? What's your number?" Or whatever. And he's like, "Oh God, please keep it moving. I need my coffee."
You just move the
Like,
line along.
and I feel like that is like I can be very impatient. I think that is one of my best traits, but also one of my worst traits, I guess, is that I can be that really kind person that pays for your coffee, but keep it moving. Like
And done. Let's get going.
and then add being Dutch to it, where I just say it as it is. That is not always received very well, I can tell you. But it's
Sometimes it can be a
also,
breath of fresh air, you know.
yeah, but it's also received very well by a lot of people.
Yes,
See, like a lot of clients still ask me back. So
that is very amusing. You shared with me before we started recording that you were really excited about sort of the intersection of B2B, B2C, how experiential is bringing in more art, more music, more creative. Tell me more. Tell me why. I mean, I can see why that gets you going, but like I guess I'd say like what's your dream for that when you see how it's moving forward?
Oh, so I mean, I have a tattoo on my body that says "In art we trust."
Hmm.
I love um, how art in different forms gets us out of our comfort zone and makes us rethink our realities, or our and it can, and then like I think the whole COVID period brought us into this like matrix of new ways of experiencing because we couldn't meet each other. And there's this upcome of new social medias that made people because it was always about, in different ways, like about how galleries or record labels or any kind of businesses picked someone to be almost like, hey, we're going to put a lot of money in you, and we're going to guide you, and you get all these team members, and we're going to make you big. But I think COVID and the last few years with social media also brought new opportunities for people uh, that might be as good as, for example, Beyonce, but didn't get those chances that Beyonce got, or weren't in the right time in the right place, or and I feel that a lot of but still have the same talent, right? And I feel that that is really coming together. Like there's a few really good brands that have played into that. And I think one of the things that I really liked, it wasn't, I didn't work on it, but was how Pinterest like really made Pinterest pages actually coming to life. I think it was at Coachella. And I think that I am super excited how marketing is almost dead and experiences are everything. And you can't do that without creatives, right? So
Wow.
I've always worked with creatives. I've always worked with artists in visual form, but also music and literature, and by having so many festivals. But I feel that COVID put a pause on things and made people more creative, because I think being bored makes you more creative. Uh, and having access to multiple ways of seeing stuff, like social media and brands who are actually fueling that in different ways on at trade shows, and seeing that whole trend going over to B2B, and where experiential is also more and more important, is super exciting for me, because one, I've never had this much business, and two, it's what I do best and what I like best. So
It brings you back to having like goosebumps every time you get to do something.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean the thing we did in Paris, it was I was so my heart was full of joy, and I was like, this is why we do what we do. And um but also, you asked me before about things that I find inspiring. There's more and more art experiences. It's not just a museum anymore. It's like it's becoming an experience. And yeah, that is
That's a perfect place to wrap, Arlene. Do you have uh an artist or an experience in any medium that really resonates with you or that you're really inspired by that you want to share?
oh, so many. But I think one of the people that I still till this day find extremely brilliant, and is Virgil Abloh, of being on the touching art, culture, uh, music, design. He changed the world for creatives to not be one thing.
Mm,
You can be multidisciplinary in the things that you do. And that also inspired me to just be me, and not just do business to consumer, but also business to business. And I am the added value, and my team and the way we approach things. And I think that he really made things more multidimensional, I think. And it's unfortunate he's no longer with us in this form, but wow, that man left, like, he inspired me to my core.
okay, that is so wonderful. And I really look forward to sharing that in the show notes too, so people can explore his work. That's really cool. Well, thank you so much for your time, Arlene. It's been delightful talking with you. Arleen Van Londen, Diamond Street, live, and I'm so excited to share more about you on the podcast, in the show notes, on the video notes, and I hope you will inspire joy for others as well as well as the joy I've
Thank you.
gotten from talking
Well,
to
thank you
Arlene.
for having me, and I hope to see you in person soon again.
Yes, me too. All right.